Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Reboot with Dr. Arasi Maran. I'm your host, Dr. Arasi Maran, and today marks our 1 year anniversary. That's right, we have completed 46 episodes of deep dives into health, wellness, and lifestyle optimization. Can you believe it? I still remember the first episode, nervously adjusting the microphone, having multiple retakes, and hoping my children won't burst into the room asking for snacks. Spoiler alert, they did come twice, but since then, we have come a long way. Today, I want to take you into a journey on some of the highlights, surprising moments, and the most impactful insights from our incredible guests over the past 1 year. Before we deep dive, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for listening. Without your support, enthusiasm, and engagement, this podcast would be me just talking to myself, which, according to my husband, I do plenty of that already. Well, now let's reboot our memories and revisit some of the amazing conversations we've had. I have divided this entire summary into several sections. Let's start with obesity and metabolic health. We kicked off the series with a deep dive into obesity, featuring none other than my husband, Dr. Rana Palat. Let's talk about keeping it in the family, huh? Well, what I loved about our obesity series is that we trace the history of the condition. Dr. Pulat pointed out something fascinating. 100 years ago, obesity was rare, but today it's an epidemic. We discussed how industrialized agriculture changed food production, making calorie-dense foods cheaper and more accessible than ever. Remember when he said, for the first time in human history, humans no longer had to expend energy to acquire energy. You could walk into a grocery store and buy cheap, calorie-dense food. That's a profound shift in our human history. We also tackled childhood obesity with its concerning trends. If you've been following along, you know my stance on ultra-processed food. As I always say, if it comes in a package with the barcode, think twice before eating it. Then we had Dr. Marc-Andre Connier, our endocrinology expert, who dropped this gem. Weight loss of about 5% can prevent pre-diabetes from progressing into diabetes, and 10% weight loss significantly improves diabetes control, and 15% weight loss can completely reverse diabetes in some cases. Those numbers still blow my mind. And who could forget Dr. Nina Crowley, who explained how BMI is completely outdated. It was created for a white European man and does not reflect women, people of color, or athletes. As someone who struggled with their weight throughout, this validation was what I needed, and we truly need better metrics than height and weight. Now, let's move on to heart health. Close to my heart as a cardiologist myself, but our episodes on cardiovascular health reveal some startling statistics and a lot of myth-busting facts. Dr. Yasmin and Ali and I had a fascinating discussion about cholesterol and statins. Remember when she said statins are not just cholesterol drugs, they also prevent heart disease through multiple mechanisms, including reducing inflammation. Yet so many patients resist taking them due to misinformation. Then there was this really heartwarming story from one of my patients and friends, Dr. Christine Gallagher, who talked about her journey of suffering a heart attack at the age of 38. Her journey of being misdiagnosed multiple times despite having chest pain is a stark reminder of how women's symptoms are often dismissed as anxieties. Ladies, if something does not feel right, keep pushing for answers. One of my favorite moments was with Dr. Elizabeth Deneen, our sports cardiologist, who advocated for cardio exercise by simply saying, cardio is my vote, when asked about the best type of exercise for heart health. Sometimes the simplest answers are the most powerful ones. And who could forget our World Health Day special, where my niece played the host and I played the guest, Dr. Divya Dayanidhi Maran. My husband teased me about that episode for weeks. So did you enjoy having your niece interview yourself? What can I say? Sometimes you have to advocate for your own. Let's move on to now strength and training and fitness overall. In our fitness series, generated probably the most feedback, from you all. I'm still getting emails about Kritya Ratha, our champion weightlifter, who shared her journey from anorexia to powerlifting. Her story of discovering strength training as a path to healing resonated with so many of you. And then there was my good friend Shiba Devraj, who shattered the myth that women who lift weights will bulk up. As she explained, women naturally have only 10% of the testosterone men do. So building visible muscles require extreme diets and extreme amount of weightlifting, which is not possible for a normal female who is lifting weights to improve health. But this myth persists and prevents women from going towards strength training and pushes them towards lots of cardio. Women, we need to lift weights to keep our bones stronger and for our mental health too, especially during menopause. I also loved when Alicia O'Connor stressed the importance of posture and strength training as we age. If you look at older adults who have strength trained for years, they walk better, have better posture, maintain independence, and avoid walkers or canes. That's not just aesthetics, we are talking about quality of life here. Basu Shankar's advice for fitness resolution has become one of my personal mantra. It doesn't matter what you do between Christmas and New Year. What matters is what you do from New Year's to Christmas. Consistency over perfection always was his key message. Now let's move on to women's health. Our women's health series episodes uncovered lots of topics which were taboo and were often whispered about and were rarely discussed openly. For example, Dr. Carolyn Myers highlighted the shocking knowledge gap in menopause education when she said a recent study from UK showed that an average woman go to 10 different doctors before they get their answers about menopause. 10 doctors. Can you imagine? Then we had Dr. Andrea Pezzella, who discussed pelvic floor health after menopause. That was truly eye-opening. As she pointed out, women don't talk about it because it's so embarrassing. They assume it's just a normal part of aging, but it doesn't have to be so. Ladies, you do not have to live with urinary incontinence or painful intimacy. And our episode with Dr. Priya Kalyani, she went through different stages of a woman's life, whether it's menarche and menstrual cups, whether it's infertility during pregnancy, postpartum depression, or menopause. She talked about so many different things, and it's a very wholesome procedure. And it's a very wholesome episode. Finally, moving on to mental health and holistic healing. Some of our more profound moments came from discussions about the mind-body connection. Dr. Jonathan Fisher, who's a cardiologist, had great insights on using mindfulness to tap into the wisdom of the heart and revealed how stress management is just as important as diet and exercise for the heart health. And who could forget Bitten Johnson's powerful discussion on sugar addiction when she compared the patterns of sugar addiction to alcohol addiction. It resonated with me, as I have confessed in my podcast. I'm a sugar addict. I would buy 6 different boxes of chocolates and hide them, and when I come to box number 4, truly develop anxiety. Well, that's addiction, folks, and it can come in many different forms. Then we had a crossroads with Dr. Lauren Nordgren when he explained the concept of fuel and friction as to why we fail to change habits. People don't resist change because they don't see value, he said. They know smoking is bad. They already know obesity increases the risk of diabetes. The problem is the barriers which serve as the friction. The hidden friction makes it difficult for us to change. This literally changed our approach patient education completely. So we had so many crossroads, so many personal touches. My insights have been almost in every episode. That's the best part of this podcasting journey, that I still keep learning, and I hope you are learning along with me. Then we had Priya Dayanidhi Maran's story of managing rheumatoid arthritis through diet, exercise, and mindset. It was truly moving. I did not know she struggled so much. Her message that I finally controlled my disease. it does not control me. It's a powerful reminder for anyone dealing with chronic disease. Then came Dr. Arun Kalyanasundaram, who talked about his own journey as a cardiologist from going from a vegetarianism to a vegan diet. And he also talked about how he finds ways to increase his protein intake even though he is on a vegan diet. And of course, there is my own journey from a stressed out cardiologist to someone who prioritizes strength training, nutrition, and recovery. As I often tell my patients and to you all, I reboot myself every day because yesterday's choices do not determine today's outcome. So moving on to gut health and the nutrition space, we had a lot of doctors in that. Let's start off with Dr. Sripati Kethu's explanation on irritable bowel syndrome. He talked about the different symptoms, the treatment, and clarified that this condition can affect up to 40% of the population, often misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and completely undertreated. Then Ayushi Singhi's own personal journey, where her quest towards improving her gut health led to her founding her own company called EverHealth. Again, your health challenges can become our greatest source of purpose in life. Then we also had Dana Engel, who broke down processed foods in different methods. It still gives me goosebumps that Greek yogurt is considered an ultra-processed food. So ladies and gentlemen, when I talk about ultra-processed food, I'm not talking about Greek yogurt. I am talking about the cookies and the cakes and the candy and everything which is not real. So let's go on to some more ultra special topics we talked about. Let's start with Dr. Nancy Dumour's insight into breast cancer. I did not know 12% of all of us are at risk for breast cancer, but her conversation talked about the myths in breast cancer, myths about bra wearing, myths about deodorant wearing, etc., to the upcoming research in breast cancer therapies. Dr. Thomas Curran talks about colon cancer, and his mantra was, any screening is better than none. So whether you choose your colonoscopy or your Cologuard, choose one thing. Then we had Dr. Bhairavi Sendal, who is a renowned dermatologist, who talked about skin health and how longevity is related to aging of your skin. And she introduced this concept called inflammaging. I love it. It's very cute. Then finally, to close it, we had Dr. Sivarajan, who talked about stroke and the symptoms of stroke itself. Remember, be fast, balance, eyes, face, arms, speech, and time. And knowing this mnemonic could quickly help you potentially recognize stroke symptoms. So, as I reflect this year of incredible conversations, I'm struck by the common thread that runs through all these episodes. That is the power of informed choice. Whether we are discussing heart health, nutrition, fitness, or some specialized medical topics, knowledge is truly power. This podcast began as a way to share evidence-based information beyond the walls of my clinic, but it has become so much more. It is a community of curious, proactive people committed to taking control of their health. As we move on to our second year, I promise to continue bring to you expert insights, practical tips, and occasionally embarrassing personal stories. My family loves that. Well, I also want to talk about, we are going to take a well-deserved break for 2 weeks, and we will be back in the second week of April. Thank you for being a part of this journey, and let's reboot our lives, our health, and overcome all challenges in our present with a very good, strong mindset. With that, it's never too late to reboot. See you in a few weeks. Thank you so much for listening. If you found us valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast app. And also, please consider leaving us a rating or a review, as that helps others find the podcast too. I hope you have a great week ahead.